Dear audience, the topic which we will discuss today in some detail is, will there be peace in Afghanistan in the year 2021? And after that also, I mean, is there a hope? Is there any optimism? Is there any light at the end of the tunnel? That Afghanistan, a country which since last 43, 44 years is in turmoil. Civil war, armed conflicts, displacement of millions of people from Afghanistan, a failed state, absolutely, not even a failing state or a fragile state, a failed state. So what are the prospects? Peace in Afghanistan, because a lot is being discussed these days, a lot is being published these days, and how the Biden-Kamala administration will deal with the Afghan issue. Because after all, Afghanistan is termed as a country where the US has been engaged since long, since October 2001. It is America's longest war in its history. The US has spent more than $1 trillion on Afghanistan. But what are the results? The Taliban and the other extremist groups in Afghanistan, they are still involved in violence. The Afghan government has failed as far as the rule of law is concerned, as far as governance is concerned. The talks are going on, intra-Afghan talks are going on in Doha and elsewhere. The agreement which was reached on 27th of February 2020 between the United States and the Taliban, that both sides, after years and years of this abortive and other and successful dialogue and talks and negotiations, they agreed. And they agreed basically that the Taliban will not attack American forces, will renounce violence, and then the US will ensure the withdrawal of its forces from Afghanistan, total withdrawal of its forces from Afghanistan by December and 2020, then date is May 2021. So that is what was the deal. But what we have realized is basically that despite the withdrawal of American forces from Afghanistan, there are hardly 2,500 US forces are left and some NATO personnel they are left. Taliban, what they want actually, that is what we have to understand. That why they are termed as a major impediment as far as peace is concerned. Why the Taliban have not been able to reconcile to the fact that it is not 1996, it is not the year 2000, it is not the year 2001, this is 2021. And the Taliban, they basically, they were advised by the senior elements of Afghan society that it is better if they focus on two things. The first thing which they should focus on to join the political process. Afghanistan, accept the Afghan constitution, establish themselves as a political party, contest elections, because that is a democratic way. And if they are able to win elections, if they are able to prove that people of Afghanistan, they support them, then they can form the government. But they are not willing to. They want that the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan should be installed, should be established. That is not possible. They are not even ready, they are not even willing for an interim government in Afghanistan. So there are three things which we have to take into account as far as how far in the year 2021 there can be peace in Afghanistan. The first thing is that the US Special Representative on Afghanistan dealing with reconciliation, Ambassador Zalmay Khalilzad, that how Zalmay Khalilzad since September 2020 till January 2021 has been very active. He has been regularly visiting Kabul, Islamabad and Delhi. he has been holding talks with the high officials in Pakistan, and he has been urging Pakistan to play its role in order to persuade Taliban accept the suggestion for an interim government in Kabul. The question is that to what extent Pakistan has a clout as far as Taliban is concerned. Certainly Taliban, one school of thought argued that Taliban basically they were the product of Pakistan. They were patronized, nourished and patronized by the Pakistani security military establishment, and they were the ones who were brought into power. But then the Taliban, they earned a bad name, they discredited. They even didn't listen to Pakistan on many occasions. So Taliban became a liability, and then they were the ones who allowed Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda to establish their bases in Afghanistan, that Afghanistan became a hub of terrorism, and that culminated into attacks September 11, 2001 in New York and Washington, and then the American-led attack and occupation of Afghanistan. So basically Zalmay Khalilzad, he is trying his level best, and he is an old guard as far as the American policy over Afghanistan and the Middle East concerned. He was the US ambassador to Iraq, to Afghanistan, and also for a brief time he was the US UN envoy. So he is of an Afghan origin, but during his I think studies he left for the US, and he is now an American. He is basically an advisor, a very important person as far as Afghanistan is concerned. So what his frequent visits to Islamabad, what does it indicate? That is he hopeful that the Pakistani military establishment, because whenever he visits Pakistan, he has meetings with the military officials, including Chief of Army Staff. So that is something which we have to understand. This is the first thing. And then of course there is another issue which is related to Zalmay Khalilzad, that he was basically appointed during the time of President Trump, Donald Trump. Now the Trump regime is over. There is no, now it has been replaced by President Biden-Kamala administration. To what extent the Democratic Party will retain Zalmay Khalilzad? They may retain him, they may have their own person, special envoy on Afghanistan. So there is basically a transition period, and that may impact as far as the Afghan peace process is concerned, because after all United States is a major stakeholder in Afghanistan. There are other stakeholders, for example the people of Afghanistan, the different groups in Afghanistan. Pakistan is a stakeholder, Iran is a stakeholder, the neighbors of Afghanistan, other neighbors of Afghanistan is a stakeholder, India is a stakeholder. The second thing which we have to take into account as far as to what extent in the year 2021 there will be peace in Afghanistan, I think one should not be that much hopeful, because despite the Doha Accord of February 27, 2020, despite the Afghan intra-Afghan dialogue between the Afghan government and the Taliban, which the Taliban agreed after much reluctance, there is no let-up. There is absolutely no let-up as far as violence is concerned. Violence in Afghanistan is going on, and the Taliban on January 15, they were blamed that they attacked the Afghan forces, and 20 people were killed. 20 of the Afghan forces, they were killed. So if violence is going on in Afghanistan, talks cannot continue. I don't think that the dialogue or negotiation, despite track 1 or track 2, whatever it is, it cannot yield positive results unless there is violence. And the Taliban and others should have realized that since they are also Afghans, and that is point 3, that the people of Afghanistan must come forward, because after all they have suffered a lot as a result of around 43 years of civil war and armed conflicts. Their lives have been made miserable. Afghanistan was earlier called as a fragile state, then as a failing state, then it has become a failed state. Despite billions of dollars of the amount which was spent by the London Conference, Tokyo Conference, Bonn Conference for the rebuilding of Afghanistan, to revamp the Afghan judiciary, the Afghan armed forces, Afghan police, Afghan bureaucracy, Afghanistan's educational system. Nothing has, there is no qualitative change as far as the Afghan state is concerned, Afghan society is concerned. There is a lot of corruption, there is a lot of nepotism, and the lack of ownership as far as the Afghan peace process is concerned, because peace in Afghanistan cannot be established from the top. It has to be a bottom-top approach. So unless the people of Afghanistan, they take the ownership, unless they realize that they are the ones who have suffered, and the civil society groups in Afghanistan and the political parties in Afghanistan, those who are better in terms of their maturity level or in terms of their wisdom and integrity, they are the ones who should come forward and play a pivotal role as far as providing an impetus to peace process in Afghanistan is concerned. And peace process in Afghanistan certainly is something which cannot be unleashed properly, which cannot reach its logical conclusion. We talk about 2021 or 22 or 23, unless there is tolerance, peaceful coexistence, the rule of law, the justice system, better governance in Afghanistan, that the state of Afghanistan should assert its position in terms of establishing rule of law. And for that matter, if the Taliban, they continue to refuse, about renouncing violence, they continue to refuse to join the political process, to contest elections, then certainly the Afghan government can ask its election commission to arrange a referendum in Afghanistan, a referendum whereby the people of Afghanistan should be asked a question, and the question can be, should Taliban join the political process, form a political party, agree to political pluralism, democracy, and if they join the political process and they become a political party, certainly they can contest elections, they can win elections if they renounce violence. So that referendum that will make it clear that the people of Afghanistan, if the majority of people of Afghanistan, they support Taliban, then they will reflect that thing as far as the referendum is concerned. If the majority of people of Afghanistan, they are against the mode of politics, the manner in which the Taliban, they have been doing their politics, then they will reject. So it has to be a popular, I think, through the ballot, if there is a referendum in Afghanistan, that the people of Afghanistan, they basically should be asked. There is a loya jirga, certainly the loya jirga is there, but the referendum needs to be impartial, it needs to be neutral. There should not be any sort of political pressure or rigging referendum, and that referendum will make it clear that the people of Afghanistan, they want a better life, they want peace, they want better security, and certainly it's a country with a lot of potential. But unfortunately, in view of the fact that the warlords, the Taliban, the Afghan government and others who have never ever been entrusted for the welfare and development of the people of Afghanistan. They have let the people of Afghanistan down. So I think that the referendum thing will explicitly make it clear for the world that which direction Afghanistan should go. Should it continue to be under the vicious cycle of violence and war, or it needs a break and it needs peace and welfare and development of its people. Thank you very much.